Good morning. In South Africa, we have blocks of time without electricity, and lucky me, we had an extra early block today, so I woke up a little bit early just to make myself a cup of coffee before the day starts. My husband usually makes me coffee in the morning, but he is at sunrise golf, which apparently is golf that you play at sunrise. I do want to wake up a little bit earlier this year, be a little bit more productive, have a couple more hours in my day. So this does align with my goals. And today we're talking about my reading goals of 2024. I think this is a little bit late, but I joined BookTube maybe 2 weeks ago, so I am catching up. I have 4 main reading goals. I have 1 bonus goal, and then also we're going to talk about my quarterly TBR today. My first reading goal is just to read at least 40 books. Last year I read 80, but this year I'm decreasing it because I don't want to have a looming Goodreads reading goal when I do want to focus on some other things this year. But within those 40 books, I would like to read 6 classics. I think I read 5 last year. I remember David Copperfield and The Count of Monte Cristo that really stand out. I read The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, but I didn't enjoy it. A French classic in English, Le Grand Mons by Alain Fournier, and I think The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath would also be considered a classic. I have a few ideas for classics I'd like to read this year. The Crucible by Arthur Miller, Emma by Jane Austen. I feel like it's everyone's favorite Jane Austen, and I've never read it. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley seems to have eluded me all of these years. A couple of international classics would probably be House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende and The Posthumous Memoirs of Bras Cubas by Joaquim Machado de Assis. My third goal is to read 6 non-fiction books. I don't usually prioritize non-fiction, and so I read them by accident instead of on purpose. Last year I read 6 non-fiction books, so I would like to maintain that or read at least 1 more. Last year I read Laziness Does Not Exist by Devon Price, Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes, Clever Girl Finance by Bola Sokunbi, Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zorner, A Chip Shop in Poznani by Ben Aitken, and I'm forgetting one, but I'll put it up on the screen. I really enjoyed learning about different things, and I felt that these were interesting to me, even though I do feel my reading style is different. When it comes to nonfiction, I feel like I should listen to the audiobook. It's more enjoyable that way. I have a few ideas for nonfiction this year. I've already started Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal. I think it's teaching me more about prioritization, which is why I'm up a little bit earlier this morning. I'm going to read Atomic Habits by James Clear this year. It's going to happen. I think I've owned it for 2 years, or I think I got it shortly after it came out, and I've DNF'd it once by accident, where I think I was going to make a habit tracker or write something down or make notes, and I just forgot about it and didn't pick it up again. But this is my Atomic Habits building here. I think aligning with my goals, I want to read a few more books about money management, and then also a few books about creativity. I think it's not an area of my life or of my personality that I've ever explored before, and it's definitely something I want to work on this year. The first thing that comes to mind is The Practice by Seth Godin, just to be able to ship creative work this year, not feel like I'm being a perfectionist and just getting things out. And then also maybe Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. My fourth goal is to read 12 books from different countries. I think I accomplished this last year, and some standouts to me were The Count of Monte Cristo from France, Le Grand Mons is from France as well. I also read The Little Prince, so France was a popular country last year. From Poland, I read Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk, which I really enjoyed. And for nonfiction, I read A Chip Shop in Poznani by Ben Aitken. Ben is British, but he lived for a year in Poznani, and it was interesting to hear from his perspective. And then The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is translated from the Swedish and set in Sweden. And I counted Bunny as Canada because that's where Mona Awad is from. This year I've joined the World Tour Book Club by Emmy to help me to reach this goal, even though I have not been very successful so far. I'll put the January and February books up on the screen. I do find that translated books are more difficult to source. For example, these books are not on Everand, as well as on Audible, and so I will have to either buy an ebook version or scour my library for these books. But even if I can't follow the book club exactly month by month, at least it will give me some really good ideas of books that I can read for this goal. My bonus goal is to read The Hunger Games. I've never read The Hunger Games before. I think that last year it had quite the resurgence because of the prequel, the Songbirds and Snakes book. It is one of those Sarah J. Maas titles where it's a House of Sun and Earth or something. The Ballads of, I want to say Songbirds and Snakes. I'll put it up on the screen. I'm sure everyone else knows. But I don't think I'll enjoy the prequel, but I do want to read the original trilogy. That then leads me into monthly prompt challenges as well. This is the first year I'm going to be doing buzzwordathon as well as savidge prompts. I love the idea of these types of challenges because it helps you to choose books that you maybe wouldn't have thought of before or wouldn't have prioritized. So going into my quarterly TBR, starting with buzzwordathon, I'll put the prompts up on the screen for January. They're there, and there. I've already started The Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I think this can count towards my classics goal. It's something that I've also wanted to read for such a long time, and this has really given me an excuse to start it, and I'm really enjoying it so far. For positive words, I'm thinking about reading Trust by Hernan Diaz. I've tried to read it before and I DNF'd it, and the reason was because the book is sort of structured in an experimental way and I didn't understand where we were going. But I watched an interview with Hernan Diaz on the Shakespeare and Company podcast, and so now that I have a better idea and a better vision for it, I'm going to try again. I do find it a little bit challenging. It is about New York and the stock exchange, but I think that's on the surface, and I read the first part and I really enjoyed the story, so it's something that I do want to try to continue. I think trust is a very positive word. I also thought Chain Gang All Stars would work for this prompt because of All Stars. I think that's positive. But I would also, if I can maybe read both, I think I'll prioritize trust. And then also The Brief and Wondrous Life by Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz, Hernan Diaz and Junot Diaz. So this one, I have no idea what it's about, but I think wondrous is a really beautiful positive word. For March, the prompt is easy. It's character names. So I think a short story like Galatea could work very easily. And then also, I would like to read Miss Kim Knows by Cho Nam Ju. I read Kim Ji-young, born 1982, last year and really enjoyed it. That was a 5-star. So I think that this could be a good follow-up for me. For savidge prompts, I haven't read January yet, but the prompt is a book with a snake on the cover. And so I've decided I'm going to read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Again, I haven't read before. I know it was quite popular for a while. I know people didn't like Hellbent as much, but it is about Alex, someone who goes to Yale but as sort of an investigator, and she's looking into these like secret clubs and cults of Yale. So I think that that would be a cool dark academia to read. For February, the prompt is a retelling of a fairy tale, a myth, or a book. And so I'm really excited to read Julia by Sandra Newman. This is a retelling of 1982 from Winston's love interest's perspective, Julia. And so this one, I'm quite excited that it's February so I can get to this one. So I'll be reading Ninth House as well as Julia this month. For March, the savidge prompt is a book, either longlisted or shortlisted for an awards list that you haven't read from before. And I really had to do my homework for this one because I would have read things from the Hugo or Nebula Awards. Last year I read, I think, 3 books from the Women's Prize for Fiction and loved them. I think I would like to read more from that list last year. They really killed it. But I checked the International Booker Prize, and I had read Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk, which won, I think, in 2019. And so I checked the Booker Prize list, and I would have assumed that I would have read something from the Booker Prize list, but it seems I haven't read anything from the Booker list for 20 years. So this is an award that I can revisit. I think the only things that I saw were Life of Pi by Jan Martel, which I think won 1 year, and The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which was long listed. So after 20 years, I'm going to revisit the Booker Prize, and there are already a few from last year that sound really interesting. I know people really loved Prophet Song. The Bee Sting got great reviews. I want to read Chetna Maru's Western Lane. It is about a family where the mother passes away and the dad doesn't know what to do raising daughters, and they get really into squash, practicing and training for squash, playing competitive squash, and I think that concept is interesting and I'm very curious about it. Other books I want to have a look at on this list would be Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. I haven't read anything from Claire Keegan before. Douglas Stewart's Shuggie Bain I know is absolutely beloved. I want to definitely prioritize Wolf Hall in March because I used to love the Tudors. I think King Henry VIII is absolutely unhinged. And this is from Thomas Cromwell's perspective, if I understand correctly. And he was the lawyer during that time, during the reign of King Henry VIII. So I think that starting the Wolf Hall trilogy would definitely be an achievement in March. Last but not least, I would like to do the Bloomin readathon as an extra bonus reading challenge in November. This is usually hosted by Ali from Alison Pages. If she ever sees this, I wanted to know that we care about her and we hope that she gets well soon during this break from YouTube. I think that is it from me. I want to thank you so much for being here. The next video you see will be my favorite booktubers' favorite books or my countries challenge. I want to do an update on the countries I've read from already, and except for my World Tour book club, what are the other books I want to look at for this challenge this year. Thank you everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.